I was hired as a global sales VP with one urgent priority: get my teams generating pipeline. And just 3 months later, we increased outbound pipeline generation by 142%. In this video, I'm going to teach you 4 things you can start doing today to more than double your outbound pipeline generation. I'm going to cover how to build a great PG plan, 2 things to do every day to guarantee success in pipeline generation, the only way to break through the noise in prospecting, and then the 2 lists you need to build this week for ongoing pipeline generation success. Let's dive in. Most people watching this video have heard of PG plans, but very few have seen them done well. Done well, they give you a foundation to build all of your pipe gen off of that will make you way more efficient. Done wrong, they're a waste of time to build, and they end up as a worthless checklist. But they are so important that they were the first thing I implemented when I joined LaunchDarkly. The team was struggling and they needed that structure. The company had grown off a ton of inbound-only leads, but then the market got worse, the inbound slowed down, sound familiar, and everyone in sales at the company started failing. Reps that were easily hitting the numbers before started hitting 50% or worse every quarter. As I assessed the team and processes, I knew that proper PG plan structure would make a huge difference. Here's exactly what your PG plan needs. First, your target accounts for the week. Your PG plan should include 1 to 2 top target accounts if you're an enterprise, 3 to 5 if in mid-market, and 5 to 15 if in SMB. Then the prospects in each account you'll target. For each account, you should have somewhere between 3 and 15 prospects, on the lower end for SMB per account, more for enterprise. I like to break them out as above the line, like your directors, VPs, and C-level, and below the line, managers and ICs, but it's not required. Target accounts plus a few target prospects is where most PG plans end, and they end up failing. You also need to add your point of view for each account across 3 categories. First, pains and problems. What challenges is the company facing today that you can help with, that you can help solve? Second, your initial value hypothesis. How do you think your product or service can add value or solve the problems you identified? And then 3, a relevant customer story. When you start prospecting into the account, you want to be ready to share great and relevant customer stories that will match to the account. Including this in your PG plan, make sure you're ready for these conversations. The last piece of the PG plan is the key goal for the week for each account. Most reps think that the key goal is always going to be set a meeting, but it's actually kind of short-sighted, especially when you're targeting your valuable accounts that are harder to break into. Some of the best PG plans I see keep the same account on the list for several weeks in a row. The key goal for week 1 might be learn what they are using for feature management by cold calling engineers. The next week might be learn what goals and metrics the engineering team is measured by cold calling managers. Then, once we've learned what competitive solution they're using and what their main goals are, we have a strong enough understanding of the account for our key goal to be set in meeting with a director or higher contact by using the information learned in prior weeks. The best PG plans build on themselves week over week with evolving accounts, prospects, and goals. You can use for this is linked in the description. A great PG plan gives you structure for your week. You'll be organized and you'll spend less time thinking, what should I be working on? But you still have to do the work. I've managed a lot of AEs that are pretty good at keeping busy. They work a lot of hours, log a lot of calls, but they're constantly scrambling at the end of the quarter to try and scrape their way to their number. I've managed other AEs that are really good at being productive. They make every hour in the week count, and they're usually way over quota well before the quarter ends. Now that I've showed you how to build great PG plans, I'm going to share with you 2 of the things that the best reps I've worked with do every day to be consistent in building pipeline. The first thing they do is they keep their call list super fresh to increase the probability of having conversations rather than just cranking out dials. Making a ton of dials to look busy is one of the most common feel-good wastes of time in sales. I've even seen reps fake dials, which is not just a waste of time, it's pretty stupid. I remember being in the office as an SDR and in line for lunch, hearing about one of the newer reps that had just gotten fired for logging fake dials. Just don't do this. It's easy for sales leaders to catch no matter how clever you think that you are. Plus, what's the point of looking busy if you're not actually generating pipeline that you can use to make a lot of money in sales? Calling stale lists of contacts you probably know won't answer, or that you know probably won't answer, won't get you fired. but it's still a waste of time. To avoid this, the best reps prioritize adding new prospects to their call list every single day, at least 10, but they'll shoot for 20 to 30. If you add at least 10 new prospects to your call list every day, you'll never run out of fresh people to reach out to, and you won't waste your time dialing through the same list of 30 people that you've called over and over again with no answer. And if you do a good job on your PG plan, you'll already have these prospects identified and ready to go when you get to work every Monday morning. Fresh prospects means increased answer rates, which drives the second daily outcome the top reps focus on to maximize pipeline generation, which is having 3 conversations per day. If you're having fewer than 3 conversations per day, you'll have a hard time hitting outbound pipeline goals because of just math. Most reps convert 15 to 25% of cold call conversations to meeting set. If you only average 1 conversation per day, that's 5 conversations per week. With typical conversion rates, you'll either set 0 or 1 meetings per week, which isn't going to be enough in most sales roles. If you average 3 conversations per day, you'll have 15 per week. That sets you up to at least set 2 meetings per week, which is a healthy minimum number for most AEs. Knowing your conversion numbers makes this all much more simple. If you know your connection rate and conversion rate, you can easily figure out how many dials make each day to hit your PG goals. If you don't, you can use what I see in sales today as an initial benchmark, then over the next few weeks track to get your own metrics. Typical averages are a 5 to 6% connection rate and then a 15 to 20% conversion rate. If your goal is to set 2 meetings per week, then you need to make 166 dials per week off of these numbers. 166 dials means 10 conversations, 20% conversion leads to 2 meetings set. If your goal is 3 meetings per week, that number goes up to 250 calls. The consistent volume gives you an immediate chance of success, and it has to be consistent. If you have a day with 0 conversations, that means you can make up for it on another day by having more conversations. If you skip enough days, you'll suddenly need to average 6 conversations per day and add 50 or more contacts per day, which is not sustainable. Instead, do a little bit of PG every day so you never find yourself so deep in a hole you have to do a lot. The other way to avoid having to do too much activity is by focusing on improving your conversion rates with tip number 3, which is all about breaking through the noise. I have a unique perspective on prospecting as I'm both a sales leader and a buyer. I've purchased multiple solutions for my organizations after being prospected by SDRs and AEs, and in the last few months, I've led the purchase of 2 technologies. I've been targeted by literally hundreds of companies, though, trying to sell me something. The most common channel is email. I get hundreds of emails per week I don't read most. The second most common channel is LinkedIn messaging, usually pitch labs. I'll get a connection invite, accept, immediate generic pitch, asking for a meeting. I just remove my connection from that seller and move on with my day. The third most common channel is phone. I get 3 to 5 calls per day, but I'm usually in meetings, so I rarely answer. Here's what I almost never get though: LinkedIn video messages and thoughtful voicemails. So where do you want your messaging to be? In the most crowded places using the same saturated format, or in less crowded places with less common format? Right now, the 2 best ways to stand out from other sellers are voicemail and LinkedIn video. Voicemail is becoming the new email. When I get a voicemail, I get a notification like a text message with a transcript. I read 100% of these. LinkedIn video also sparks attention because it's rare. I watch all of these. Combining multiple channels plus using less common formats is the key to breaking through the noise. I have responded to 100% of sellers that have reached out to me with an email, then a voicemail, then a LinkedIn video. The messaging still matters. If it's not relevant, then I'll respond thanking them for thoughtful outreach, but won't book a meeting. But great messaging hidden in my inbox also won't do you any good. You need to break through the noise, and that means using a combination of email, voicemail, and LinkedIn video for all of your top prospects. You may not have sent LinkedIn videos before, so I'll teach you what you need to know real quick. First, you need to connect with the prospect on LinkedIn. Not everyone will accept, so make sure to invite as many as you can each week. Then use simple messaging. Here's the flow one of my reps uses to get a 21% response rate on video sent through LinkedIn. They say, hey name, wanted to send you this video so I'm not just some random name in your inbox. The reason I'm reaching out specifically to you is, then they get the reason for reaching out. Thought this would be top of mind given, and they add a relevant company initiative, and then let me know if this is relevant and worth a conversation. Now, even if you follow the first 3 tips in this video, you're not going to break into all your top accounts or set meetings with all of your ideal prospects right away. The 4th and final tip of this video will give you the 2 lists you need to build this week to make sure you never lose track of your priority targets, because organization can be the difference between good and great AEs. I'll explain this. I remember getting assigned a great account when I was an AE. It was the perfect fit for the product that I was selling. I reached out to every single potential lead in the account trying to set a meeting, and I got nothing back in my first month owning the account. The next month I saw some new people had joined, so I reached out to them and got shut down, and I repeated this process for 5 months when I noticed another new employee had joined in an executive role. I called her, set a meeting, and closed a 6-figure deal a few months later. The average rep would have given up on this account after the first month or 2. They would have thought, well, they're not interested, it's not a good fit, or they would have lost track of the account over time. But I knew it was a top account, so I obsessed over it until I closed the deal. I kept my top accounts and top prospects organized and top of mind with 2 key lists: the top 10 accounts and my dream 50 prospects. The final PG tip is to create these 2 lists this week and then obsess over them. You need to obsess over these 10 accounts and 50 people. While your competition might send them a couple of emails and make a few dials, you will have these top targets always top of mind to figure out a way to break through the noise. Every week, review your top 50 dream prospect list and think of new ways, channels you can get in touch with them using phone, LinkedIn, email, gifting, physical mail, executive outreach. If you've reached out to a dream prospect several times recently, it's okay to take a couple months off from that prospect, but by keeping them in an organized list, you'll be sure to try again later when timing might be improved. These lists should evolve. Hopefully you close some of your top 10 accounts and you replace them with new prospects. Maybe you talk to a top 50 prospect, realize it's not a fit. But as you are adding your new accounts to your PG plan and adding new prospects to your cadence, be looking for accounts and prospects that are such a good fit, you never want to lose track of them, and add them to your priority list so they never fall through the cracks. So if you've watched up until this point, you now have a pretty solid blueprint for generating pipeline. I've seen it work over and over for hundreds of sellers, and I know it's going to work for you. But that's only part of what you need to succeed as a seller. I want to give you all you need, so be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more breakdowns like this. Plus, sign up at salesintroverts.com for my best content in your inbox every week.